Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. I got to get those shades.
Hey, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. No one ever claps for me when I get off the podium. I'm just saying. That's why that happened, folks. That's why I got the question.
First, a top orthopedic surgeon at Shifa has apparently died in Israeli custody. He was 50 years old. If medical personnel are not going to be exempt from the war, how can Gazans hope to have any medical care? And what can you say to other doctors working in that area?
And so, look, that is a devastating news and devastating to hear. And our hearts go out to friends and families. In a statement this morning, President Biden reaffirmed his commitment to support and take action in defense of media freedom. Oh my goodness, I wonder why. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Don't say things don't get exciting in here sometimes. There's no introduction that really is needed here. I have a special guest, as you can see. Mark Hamill has decided to join us on this wonderful Friday, and I am really excited to turn it over to Mr. Hamill. Here we go.
Okay, how many of you had Mark Hamill will lead the press briefing on your bingo card? Hands? Yeah, me either. And look, I just got to meet the president, and he gave me these aviator glasses. I'm telling you. I love the merch. Love it all. But listen, I just wanted to say I was honored to be asked to come to the White House to meet the president, the most legislative successful president in my lifetime. And, you know, I don't have to go through the list, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, all of that, inflation, 15 million jobs. Look, it's all good. I mean, I was really thrilled to meet the entire staff because, you know, it's not just one person. It's like a composite endeavor. And all these people, my goodness, you know, I mean, I have no idea. I had no idea just what went into what is on his plate on a daily basis. So that's pretty much it. I'm open to questions, although no Star Wars questions, please. But I want to say once again how grateful I am, and it just shows you that one person can be so influential and so positive in our lives. And again, thank you so much. And Peter Baker, I loved your book. Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Mark Hamill, for being here. What did you ask? What did you talk about with the president?
Well, first of all, I only expected to be there for like 5 minutes. He showed us all his photographs, and you know, it was really amazing to me because, you know, I was invited to the Carter White House, and I came, and then I came to the Obama White House, but I never was invited into the Oval Office, and it was a large gathering. So this one was really extra special.
All right, sir.
So yes,
Can Biden bring up Star Wars too, sir?
well, you know, I called him Mr. President. He said, "You can call me Joe," and I said, "Can I call you Joe B-1 Kenobi?" And he liked that. But listen, I'm not really here to dominate. I have to turn it back over to our wonderful press secretary, Karine, Jean-Pierre. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. I got to get those shades.
Hey, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. No one ever claps for me when I get off the podium. I'm just saying. I know, the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. I don't even know where to go from there, but I do have, now I feel very by myself. Let's let the team come in. Thank you. Thank you, Sam, for joining. Sure. All right, okay. I do have a couple things before we get into, turn it into some serious business and take your questions. Thank you so much for indulging us today. We thought that might be a nice thing to do for you all to see Mark Hamill as he was here, as you just heard, visiting with the President Biden, here today. So today marks World Press Freedom Day, an occasion that highlights the importance of a free press, both of our democracy here in the United States and for our societies around the world. From exposing corruption and human rights abuses to covering communities and conflicts the world over, journalists risk their lives every day in the pursuit of truth, In a statement this morning, President Biden reaffirmed his commitment to support and take action in defense of media freedom. The Biden-Harris administration has already launched a robust government-wide campaign and built a coalition of countries to counter the proliferation and misuse of commercial spyware, which has been misused against journalists, and continues to provide legal and other support for media who face persecution around the world. The president also called again for the immediate, unconditional release of all journalists who have been detained around the world, including the Wall Street Journal's Evan Gershkovich, Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty's Alsu Kamashiva, and of course, Austin Tice in Syria. In the coming weeks, the president will take executive action in response to the global crackdown on press freedom, declare it a grave threat to national security, and authorize measures including sanctions and visas bans against those who attempt to silence the press. The United States stands by media around the world and will continue to do our part to support their important work. Today, we also have another important day event happening later today. President Biden, is naming 19 recipients of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is the nation's highest civilian honor, presented to individuals who have made exemplary contributions to the prosperity, values, or security of the United States, world peace, or other significant societal, public, or private endeavors. We're honored to have these individuals or members of their families come to the White House today to celebrate their service. President Biden often says there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. These 19 Americans consistently demonstrated over their careers the power of community, hard work, and service. Finally, this morning, Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona sent a letter to schools addressing the sharp rise in anti-Semitic hate on college campuses. His letter made clear to schools that not only is anti-Semitism abhorrent and unacceptable, it is also discrimination prohibited under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Secretary Cardona reminded schools that the Department of Education provides a number of resources, including trainings, technical assistance, to ensure that school environments are free of discrimination. His letter comes one day after President Biden spoke to this very subject. As you all know, Americans have a right to free speech and peacefully protest, but breaking into buildings, destroying property, and shutting down campuses is not peaceful protest. There is also no place on college campuses or in America for anti-Semitism. This administration will continue to defend free speech while standing up for the rule of law. And Josh, good to see you.
Good to see you, Karine. May the force be with you.
May the force be with you, or tomorrow, the fourth be with you, however you want to look at it.
Let's hope we killed off the Star Wars jokes for the rest of the briefing.
I doubt it. I feel like there's more coming.
So, three subjects.
Yeah.
First, a top orthopedic surgeon at Shifa has apparently died in Israeli custody. He was 50 years old. If medical personnel are not going to be exempt from the war, how can Gazans hope to have any medical care? And what can you say to other doctors working in that area?
And so, look, that is a devastating news and devastating to hear. And our hearts go out to friends and families, his friends and families. That is certainly one of the hardest news that you can hear, a family member can hear, especially as someone is providing care in this situation in Gaza, where we know humanitarian aid is dire, and the innocent people of Gaza, the Palestinian citizens, obviously need that care. They need that assistance. So it is obviously devastating to hear. And the president has said, and has said very clearly, that when it comes to people who are citizens who are in Gaza providing that all-important care, humanitarian aid, humanitarian care, they need to be protected. They should be protected. And so certainly those conversations are going to continue. We believe that certainly Israel has made, the Israeli government has taken efforts to do just that and has taken into account our concerns. And so we're going to continue to have those conversations. But it is heartbreaking to hear. I can't speak specifically to that case and what occurred. Obviously, someone's life was lost, and we have to be certainly mindful. And we're at this time, I can offer my condolences. And we want to make sure innocent lives, innocent civilians, people who are certainly offering that humanitarian aid, their lives are protected as they're doing so.
Secondly, what can you say about reports that Israel has briefed the administration on its efforts to evacuate civilians before a Rafah invasion?
So what I can say is, and we've been pretty clear, we haven't seen a comprehensive plan, as it relates to their thinking on the Rafah operations. We have been also clear that of our concerns of any major operations, military operations into Rafah, we have said, and you all have heard us say, there's more than 1 million Palestinian civilians living seeking refuge in Rafah, and we want to make sure that they are their lives are protected. And so that is important, and we want to continue to have the conversations that we've been having with the Israeli government. As you know, those conversations have been led by the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. He was just here last week, as you all know, as well. And so we had 2 virtual conversations. We're hoping to have one in person. We want those conversations to continue. We believe that they are going to take Israel government is going to take our concerns into account, but we have not seen a plan. Comprehensive plan, and we want to make sure that those conversations continue, because it is important to protect those Palestinian lives, those innocent lives, those more than 1 million citizens who are seeking refuge in Gaza, in that part of Gaza, in Rafah.
And then, lastly, on campus protests, the president has drawn the line at violence, but he said he's not bringing in the National Guard. Does he think the police presence deters violence or exacerbates it?
So just to be very clear about the National Guard, that is something that governors decide on. That is a decision for them to make when it comes to the National Guard. And so want to just reiterate that again from here. And look, we have always been very clear when it comes to police presence on college and universities. That is certainly something that that universities and colleges have to make a decision on. That is something that they decide what is right to move forward on their campuses and colleges. And we understand how painful this moment is. You've heard me say it is an incredibly charged time. It is a charged environment. And it is very difficult because of that charged environment for law enforcement. We also believe, and it is important, that all Americans can peacefully protest within the law. They have to be able to do that. It is, you heard from the president, it is part of our fundamental American principles, part of what make America's freedom, right, to be able to protest peacefully in this country. And it is also important, which is the second part that the president talked about yesterday, is the rule of law. We have to follow the rule of law. Violence is not protected here, but Americans have the right to peacefully protest within the law, and we're going to be very consistent here. And as I said, these are incredibly painful time, and it is a very charged moment, and we understand how difficult that could be. And so I'll just leave it there. Is that your 3 topics?
Yes.
Okay, all right, excellent.
Thanks, Karine. So you say that you haven't seen a comprehensive plan for Rafah, but I am told by a U.S. official that the U.S. has been briefed on some sort of initial plan. So can you just tell us what the reaction was to Israeli counterparts about that initial brief? So
I'm going to be super mindful. These conversations are, these are diplomatic conversations. We don't read out in details and specifics on the conversations that we have certainly with all of our counterparts here. The last time there was a virtual meeting, we did have a readout there, but I don't want to go into details. We have been very clear in public and in private that our concerns with a large military operation into Rafah, we're not in support of that. And so obviously there's been conversations. There's been two virtual led conversation led by the National Security Advisor on this particular topic, Rafah operations. We read out to all of you the last time that the president spoke with the Prime Minister of Israel. Rafah operations came up in that conversations. We're not going to go into details from here, but I think we've made ourselves very clear. There are more than 1.5 million Palestinians who are seeking refuge there. And so we believe those lives need to be protected, and we're going to continue to have those conversations.
So to be clear, the U.S. was not satisfied with whatever the U.S. was
I'm
briefed
not.
on in this
I'm
initial
just.
plan?
I'm not going to go into details or specifics from here. We've been clear about our concerns. We're going to continue to be clear about our concerns here. Those conversations are going to continue, and I'm just going to leave it there.
And just switching gears a little bit, a new ABC News Ipsos poll found that nearly 4 in 10 Americans say the U.S. is doing too much to support Israel. That's up from about 3 in 10 in January, so it is showing that support for Israel is declining as the war drags on. Is the president concerned about this?
I'm not going to go into every poll that comes out. That's for political pundits to do. I used to be one. I'm not one anymore standing here at this podium. But what I can say is that we saw what happened on October 7th. We heard from Hamas, a terrorist organization, what they said that they would do. A leader from that organization said they want to see October 7th happen again and again and again. More than 1,200 souls were taken on that day. More than 200 Israelis, including some American hostages, were taken by Hamas. And as you know, we are working very hard to get that hostage deal so that we can bring hostages home, including those American hostages, create a situation where we have a ceasefire, right? So more humanitarian aid can go through. That is incredibly important. We're working around the clock to get that done. You saw Secretary Blinken in the region meeting with regional partners. And so that is certainly a priority and continues to be a priority for us. Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad, as I've said, and we have said many times. They live in a tough neighborhood. And we saw what Iran did, right? They launched missiles and drones into Israel, and it wasn't just us that stepped in. It was leaders in the region that stepped in to make sure that they were able to defend themselves at that time. And so we want to get that hostage deal. That's what we want to see. We want to make sure that that innocent Palestinian lives are protected. That's why we're looking into the Rafah operations and having those conversations. But getting that hostage deal is so critical to bring hostages home, to get that more humanitarian aid in, and to have a ceasefire. And we are committed to doing that, and you see that from this president.
Thank you, Karine. You said that the U.S. has been clear about concerns about invading Rafah. Has it been clear about potential consequences if Israel moves forward?
Look, I'm not going to go into speculations or what consequences might be. We've made our concerns publicly and privately to the Israeli government. I just mentioned the president had a conversation with the prime minister in his last call with him, and Rafah operations came up. I'm not going to go into specifics. I'm not going to go into details. We have been very clear. There are 1.5 million Palestinians who are seeking refuge in Rafah, and we want to make sure those lives are protected, understanding that Israel needs to also defend itself, and having those Hamas operators there. We understand that they want to dismantle Hamas, and we understand that is a priority, obviously, and we certainly appreciate that. We also want to make sure that those 1.5 million Palestinian lives who are seeking refuge there are protected. And we believe there's a way to do that, and we're going to have those conversations. I'm not going to get into specifics from here.
We have learned that the King of Jordan is meeting with President Biden here at the White House next week. Can you share any details and talk about what's on the agenda?
So I can confirm that King Abdullah of Jordan will participate in a private meeting with President Biden at the White House next week while he is in town. I don't have any more details for you at this time. Certainly we will provide a readout when that occurs, but I can confirm that meeting is indeed happening next week.
And then just to close the loop, what was Mark Hamill doing here today?
I think he said he was having a meeting. Did you not like having him here?
No, I mean, that's,
I was like,
we all love
it
seeing
sounded,
him,
it
but-
sounded very kind of like, why here? He said it himself. We wanted to make sure that he provided, which is one of the reasons he spoke to why he was here himself. He wanted to meet with the president. They had a meeting, and. Well, I mean, you guys asked him questions. They had a meeting about what the president has been able to do on behalf of the American people. Mark Hamill was in town. They met. I think it was important as someone you all know Mark Hamill. He is someone who is very much invested in our country, very much invested in the direction of this country, and so they had a meeting. It was he went into that meeting, and we thought it would be fun for him to come out here and lighten up the room a little bit on a Friday. We also believe that you guys there's some Star Wars fans in here, but the president meets with a lot of people. There's a lot of people that come through the White House that the president has an opportunity to sit down and talk with. You just happen to see Mark Hamill today because we thought it would be a nice gesture to have him come out and say hello. But I really wouldn't put too much into it. He meets with a lot of people here.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Geez, Rija is not happy about Mark Hamill being here. That's okay. I'm not going to tell him. He's not watching. Probably. I won't tell him.
I haven't.
Do you not like Star Wars? You have not seen Star Wars?
I will now. I will now. I know.
That's why that happened, folks. That's why I got the question.
I'm gonna watch.